Hey guys, hope everyone's day is going well, and today I've got a super highly requested YoYo comparison video. Okay, so today we're going to be comparing the C3xMagic YoYo Vapormotion and the iYOYO iCERBERG. Which one do I play with more, which one do I use for competition, and which overall is the better yo-yo and which one you should buy. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. Alright, so first of all, these two yo-yos are hybrids, which for those of you that don't know, a hybrid is a yo-yo that is made of both metal and plastic. Okay, so looking at the two yo-yos, we can see that first off, the Vapormotion has, I'd say, about a 50-50 distribution of metal and plastic. The main body of the yo-yo is plastic, and then the, kind of cap as well as just the outside of the yo-yo is all metal. Okay, and then for the iCERBERG, this is a little bit of a different situation. We've got a more plastic body, so I'd say the most of this yo-yo is plastic, and then we have these weight rings on either side, which are metal, as well as just the finger spin dimple is metal as well. So I'd say it's about a 80-20% plastic and metal configuration on the iCERBERG, while the Vapormotion is a 50-50, so these are just general concepts, just quick things that you should know. Okay, so looking on over to the specs of the two yo-yos, so in the diameter section, the Vapormotion is actually 57mm, while the iCERBERG is 56.95, so it's basically the same with the both of them. Their diameters are almost identical. Then looking on over to the width, the Vapormotion is 42.85, while the iCERBERG is 42.12. So this is actually, again, pretty similar in width. The gap width is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So as for the Vapormotion, it's 4.4mm, which in my mind is a little bit on the narrow side. However, the gap width on the iYOYO iCERBERG is 4.75mm. So that's just a factor to think about, that the iCERBERG is in general a little bit more wide. As for the weight, the Vapormotion's weight is 64.4 grams, which is in my mind a little on the light side, while the iCERBERG is 65 grams. So that's pretty similar. And then they just have their own little bearings and response pads that are signature to their company. So in general, the specs of the two yo-yos is fairly similar. Just the main thing that you should note is that the width is a little bit different with the two of them, the iCERBERG being a little bit wider and the Vapormotion is a little bit lighter. But yeah, one of the main reasons of why I wanted to do this comparison was because the two yo-yos are pretty comparable in general, and their sizes and everything is overall pretty similar. Alright, so then looking over at the shapes of the two yo-yos, this is where it gets pretty different. So as I said in my Vapormotion review, the Vapormotion has a more kind of like a V shape, a very angular shape. It doesn't really have any steep cuts and drops in it. It's a pretty just sharp decline right down to the bearing. While the iCERBERG has a more accommodating shape. It's kind of flared out more. It's got a bunch of very steep and narrow cuts down to the bearing, and then it's got a little spot right around the bearing that's good for finger grinds. So yeah, that's just something to note. I feel like the iCERBERG has a more just kind of flared out thin design, while the Vapormotion, it seems a little bit more chunky. Alright, and then talking about appearance, the Vapormotion has overall just a really nice look to it. It's got this kind of glossy finish with the finger spin dimple on the cup, as well as just a little logo that says Vapormotion around the ring. But other than that, there's no real engravings whatsoever. The iCERBERG, however, has another really cool design, which is the neat weight rings around the edge, which are very shiny and flashy. On the inside of the cup, it says iCERBERG, and then we have the finger spin dimple in the middle of the iCERBERG as well. So overall, I think the appearances of both of these yo-yos is super flashy, and I really love the colors that I picked up. Okay, so moving on to the kind of feel of both of these yo-yos, which is, to be honest, what we're all really interested on. The iCERBERG has a lot of rim weight, which makes it a lot better for longer and more strenuous tricks, as well as being able to spin longer, and it has a more powerful spin. So overall, the iCERBERG just has a very rim-weighted, stable, and solid feel to it. The Vapormotion, on the other hand, feels a little bit more floaty. It's still very stable, but it lacks a little bit when it comes to these really intense tricks that really push the yo-yo to its limits. They're both very good for fast tricks. I'd say they're about even in that aspect. However, the Vapormotion has a little bit of tilt when it comes to the super fast tricks. I'd say they're both very good for whips, except the iCERBERG may be a little bit better for whips just because that shape is a little bit more accommodating and wide. For horizontal, again, the iCERBERG is definitely superior for this. It has a little bit lower walls and just has a little better shape for spinning longer and having a more powerful spin. Just talking about the pure feel of it, the iCERBERG is like super rim weighted and stable, while the Vapormotion is still stable, but a little bit more on the floaty side. Now talking about the grinds, the iCERBERG is definitely better for finger grinds, palm grinds, and thumb grinds. For finger grinds, it's got a nice little spot that's like designated for finger grinds. Palm grinds, I mean, they're fine. Both yoyos have a bit of a glossy finish for palm grinds, but I'd say it's actually about the same for palm grinds. And then thumb grinds, the Vapormotion doesn't really have like a little spot where you could put your thumb, while the iCERBERG does have a ring. But for finger spins, which is a really interesting topic with both of these yoyos, the iCERBERG is definitely harder to do finger spins with. Like, it's harder to lock into that groove. However, it does spin for longer. So if you guys watched my little finger spin comparison video with 10 yoyos and how good they finger spin, these yoyos were pretty comparable, but the Vapormotion was a lot easier to lock your finger in if you're not very experienced in finger spins, while the iCERBERG was a little bit more difficult. However, the Vapormotion did stop spinning before the iCERBERG did, and the iCERBERG stayed spinning on your finger for a very long time. Now, here's a really important concept with both these yoyos that I think is really good to compare them with, is, are these yoyos good for competition? And my answer, I'd say the iCERBERG is a fair amount better for competition. So the iCERBERG has a super competitive like feel to it. It's very fast on the string. It's got a very stable feel and everything, which is all valued extremely in a competition yoyo. However, the iCERBERG does get a little bit boring after a while. So when I first picked up this yoyo, I thought, like, I mean, I had so much fun with it, and I still do to this day. However, there was a period where I was just like, well, I mean, it's the iCERBERG. It's just, it got a little bit boring for me. However, it is definitely geared towards competition. I could see just about anyone playing with this for competition just because it's just that good. The Vapormotion, on the other hand, I'd say is not really as much geared towards competition as it is geared to being fun. So the Vapormotion, I've not gotten bored with that yoyo. It is so much fun. It's so unique and has a really good feel to it. However, I'd say it lacks a little bit when you get into those really strenuous, hard tricks on the yoyo that really test its limits. I feel like that's where the Vapormotion lacks a little bit. So it's kind of a trade-off. Do you want a fun yoyo? Do you want a competitive yoyo? But they're both pretty unique in their own ways. Now, moving on over to the value for price with both of these yoyos. Which one I feel is better for its price? So the Vapormotion, if you guys didn't know, is $45 for like the basic color, but then the iCERBERG is $65 for the basic colorway that I got. So that's about a $20 difference, and I think that's something to pay attention to. I talked a lot in this review saying a lot of good things about the iCERBERG that were just better in the iCERBERG than the Vapormotion, and I think I would credit that to the price. So I think with those extra $20, you're getting a little bit more of a competitive yo-yo, and one that's very solid and fast on the string and everything. And I think that's really important to factor in. So if you're looking for a competition yo-yo, those extra $20 are gonna take you pretty far. However, if you're just looking for a fun yo-yo, I would save the $20 and go for the Vapormotion because that's what it's really good for. So I'd say the value for price with both these yo-yos is fairly appropriate, but I do think that it's just that the iCERBERG has a little bit more of an expensive price than the Vapormotion just because it seems to be better for a lot of things. And that moves me on to my final point, my conclusion. So, general analysis of the iCERBERG. The iCERBERG is super stable. It's a little bit more expensive than the Vapormotion, but you're getting a very competitive yo-yo that is super reliable and very long spinning. The Vapormotion is a little bit cheaper. It's a lot easier to do finger spins if you're a beginner. However, it doesn't have that really competitive shape, or it is very fun to play with and has a unique feel to it. And both are great yo-yos, and I still play with them a ton every single week. So I would highly recommend both of them. Those are just the factors that you should think about when you're considering buying this yo-yo. So I want to thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy this comparison, be sure to leave a like. Also, I usually post videos on the weekends every single week. So if you guys are enjoying the content, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.